The Wolfgirl. Chapter 1. Awakening. Emma Jenkins always considered herself an ordinary girl living in a small town on the outskirts of a forest. Her life flowed smoothly and quietly until one night she woke up with a strange feeling. At that moment, when the moonlight filled her room, she felt something awakening inside her. Her body began to undergo painful changes. She felt her arms and legs lengthen, her skin covered with thick fur, and a hunger for the hunt in her eyes. She stumbled around her room, trying to understand what was happening, but the horror and pain were too intense. She ran out of the house, heading into the forest, where her instincts seemed clearer. Her mind was fogged, her heart pounding wildly, but something inside her told her the forest was her home. When she reached the forest, her transformation was complete. She had become a wolf. The initial terror gave way to amazement and a new sense of freedom. She felt a power she had never known before, but along with it came the realization that she was no longer human. In the forest, she met Simon Gray, a mysterious middle-aged man who had been watching her. He approached, showing no fear, and began speaking to her in a calm and confident voice. "You are not alone, Emma," he said. "I know what you are feeling. I am a werewolf too." Emma couldn't believe her ears. She was stunned and frightened. Simon continued, "I am here to help you. You need to learn to control your power, or you might harm yourself and others." Emma looked at him, trying to comprehend his words. She felt she could trust him, but the fear of the unknown was too strong. Simon began teaching her how to manage her transformations. The first lessons were painful and challenging. Emma felt lost, haunted by nightmares, and feared she would never succeed. But Simon was there, supporting her and instilling hope. Every night, when the moon rose, Emma would go into the forest and train with Simon. He showed her how to use her new abilities, how to hear and see better, run faster, and hunt more effectively. But most importantly, he taught her to control her transformations so they wouldn't overwhelm her. Over these weeks, Emma began to understand that her life would never be the same. Her heart was filled with fear and doubt, but each night she grew stronger. She started to accept her new nature, though it was hard. One day, after an especially tough training session, Emma asked Simon, "Why did this happen to me? Why me?" Simon looked at her with understanding and replied, "This is not a curse, Emma. It's a gift. You are stronger than you think, and I will help you learn to use this power for good." These words gave Emma new hope. She began to believe she could cope with this new reality. Despite all the fears and difficulties, she knew she was not alone. And with each passing day, she grew closer to accepting her true nature. Chapter 2. Double Life. A sunny morning in the forest was filled with birdsong and a light breeze, giving everything a magical feel. Emma and Simon decided to spend this day away from the hustle and bustle, having a picnic in one of the forest's beautiful clearings. They spread a blanket under a large oak tree, its branches creating a pleasant shade. Emma, smiling, took out fruits and sandwiches from the basket. Simon opened a bottle of wine and poured it into 2 glasses, handing one to Emma. "To us," he said, raising his glass. "To this day and to finding each other." Emma smiled and clinked glasses with him. They began to enjoy their meal, talking and laughing, feeling the day slowly transition into a wonderful moment of peace and happiness. "I still can't believe this is real," said Emma, looking at Simon. "All this, werewolves, the forest, you." Simon took her hand and gently squeezed her fingers. "This is real, Emma, and you are handling it beautifully. You have become strong and confident, and I am proud of you." They sat close, enjoying each other's company. Simon told Emma stories about his childhood, his first transformations, and how he found his way to accepting his nature. Emma listened attentively, feeling her heart fill with warmth and gratitude. After the meal, they lay on the blanket, looking up at the sky through the tree leaves. Simon held Emma, and she felt his warmth penetrate her, creating a sense of safety and love. "You know, Simon," she began quietly, "I never thought I could accept my nature and find someone who understands me like you do. I love you." Simon turned to her, their eyes meeting. He slowly leaned in and kissed her, gently at first, then more passionately. Emma responded to his kiss, feeling their connection grow stronger. They forgot everything around them, fully giving in to their feelings. Their kisses became hotter and more intense. Simon gently ran his hand through her hair, then down her neck, moving to her shoulders. Emma felt her body respond to his every touch, desire growing inside her. She carefully removed his shirt, savoring the feel of his skin under her fingers. "You are so beautiful, Emma," Simon whispered, his breath hot on her skin. "I want you. I want to be with you here and now." Emma responded with a look full of love and desire. They continued to ignite each other, their bodies intertwining in passionate unity. Every kiss, every touch was filled with emotion and passion that overwhelmed them. During their lovemaking, their bodies began to change. Nails elongated into sharp claws, muscles tensed, skin covered with light fur. Their animal nature manifested, adding even more wildness and strength to their passion. They were not just loving people, but creatures bound by ancient instincts, making their union even deeper and more primal. They were united in their feelings, and nothing could break that bond. In that moment, they completely gave themselves to each other, forgetting the world around them. Their love and passion reached their peak, and they plunged into the depths of pleasure, feeling their souls merge into one. After their passionate act, they lay on the blanket, holding each other. Emma felt her heart beating in unison with Simon's. She looked at him, love glowing in her eyes. They continued to lie close, enjoying the silence and peace that enveloped them after such an intense and passionate moment. Emma felt she had finally found her place in the world, and that place was with Simon. Chapter 3. Hunters and Prey. The couple lay looking into each other's eyes, enjoying the silence and tranquility after a passionate moment, when suddenly an arrow whizzed past, barely grazing Emma's arm. She flinched in surprise and pain, not understanding what was happening. She was confused, but instincts took over. "Run!" shouted Simon, grabbing her hand. They quickly got up and, without losing time, disappeared into the depths of the forest. Their hearts pounded with adrenaline, and they understood that the threat had become real. Morgan Black, a well-known werewolf hunter, had been tracking them for several months. He was experienced and cold-blooded. His methods left no chance for his victims. In the past, he had lost his family to werewolves, and since then his life had been dedicated to hunting these creatures. Every step was carefully planned, every attack deadly accurate. Morgan knew no mercy. He saw werewolves as monsters that needed to be destroyed. For him, there was no difference between men and women, old and young. They were all enemies to be eradicated. His hunt for Emma and Simon was personal. He wanted revenge for his family and would not stop until he achieved it. However, not all werewolves were the same. There were those who chose a different path, one of destruction and violence. It was these werewolves who had killed Morgan's family many years ago. They attacked people, killed indiscriminately, and sowed chaos. Morgan had witnessed cruelty and horror that left a deep scar on his soul. Since then, he vowed to exterminate all werewolves, making no distinctions among them. Emma and Simon, reaching a safe place, stopped to rest. Emma examined the wound on her arm while Simon looked at her with concern. "We have to be more careful," he said, pulling her close. "Morgan won't stop." Emma nodded, feeling fear but also determination. She knew they had to be strong and protect themselves and their loved ones. Meanwhile, at the university, Lily noticed that Emma had become even more withdrawn and tense. She knew something was wrong and decided to find out the truth. One day between classes, she approached Emma and asked, "Emma, what's going on with you? I see you're changing, but I don't understand why." Emma looked at her friend and realized she could no longer hide her secret. She sighed and said, "Lily, I need to tell you something important, but you have to promise not to tell anyone." Lily nodded, her eyes filled with worry and curiosity. Emma led her to a quiet place and began to tell her story. How she discovered she was a werewolf, meeting Simon, and how they were learning to control their abilities. Lily listened intently, her eyes widening with surprise and fear. But instead of being scared or rejecting her friend, she took Emma's hand and said, "I believe you, Emma, and I want to help." Emma felt relief and joy. She hugged Lily, feeling she now had another ally in this battle. They began to develop a plan to protect Emma from Morgan. Lily started studying ancient books and legends, trying to find ways to counter the hunter. Emma and Simon continued to train, preparing for possible attacks. Morgan, meanwhile, wasted no time. He carefully studied every move of his targets, developing strategies and preparing for a decisive strike. He knew that werewolves were dangerous, but he also knew that his hatred and determination were stronger. He was ready to do whatever it took to destroy them. Every day was a test for Emma and her friends. They understood that the fight was not over and that new dangers lay ahead. But together they were stronger, and that gave them hope. Chapter 4. Moonlight Ritual. Despite the werewolf's impressive regenerative abilities, the wound on Emma's arm, caused by Morgan's arrow, did not heal. The pain persisted, and Emma felt weaker with each passing day. This worried everyone, and Lily decided to seek knowledge in old books and libraries. Lily spent days and nights searching for a solution. She leafed through pages of ancient texts, studied legends and lore. Finally, in one of the old books, she found a mention of a plant whose leaves could help werewolves heal even the most serious wounds. This plant was called echinacea and grew deep in the forest. Simon wasted no time and set out to find it. He walked through the forest, carefully examining every corner, but could not find the plant. Simon ventured further until he finally found what he was looking for. But the moment he reached for the leaves, a trap was triggered, and he found himself captured. Morgan Black, having anticipated their move, took Simon captive. He knew that without Simon, Emma would be vulnerable. Exhausted and wounded, Emma, having waited in vain for Simon's return, realized something was wrong. She decided to go after him despite her weakness. Lily insisted on accompanying her, unwilling to leave her friend alone in such a dangerous situation. Wandering through the forest, Emma and Lily finally found where Simon was being held. He was in a cage, emaciated and wounded but still determined. Morgan stood nearby, his eyes gleaming with malice and triumph. "Let him go," Emma pleaded, her voice full of pain and determination. "I'm ready to give myself in exchange for his freedom." Morgan smirked. He saw an opportunity to catch two birds with one stone. He aimed at Emma, intending to kill her on the spot. But at that moment, the full moon emerged from behind the clouds, and Simon, enraged and filled with power, broke the cage's bars. In one leap, he shielded Emma with his body, taking the arrow straight to his heart. "No!" Emma screamed, seeing the life leave Simon. Her rage and pain were so intense that she instantly transformed into a werewolf. In this state, she was unstoppable. In one bound, she pounced on Morgan, her claws and fangs gleaming in the moonlight. The battle was short but fierce. Driven by rage and grief, Emma overpowered Morgan, leaving him with no chance of survival. She stood over his fallen body, breathing heavily, her eyes burning with hatred and pain. Lily, watching this with horror and concern, ran to Emma and grabbed her hand. "Emma, don't do this," Lily begged. "Don't become like those who killed Morgan's family. You are better than this. Don't let rage consume you." Emma, still in werewolf form, looked at Morgan, who lay helpless and defeated on the ground. Her claws were ready to deliver the final blow, but Lily's words made her pause. She realized that if she killed him, she would become just like those who had killed his family. Slowly, her claws and fangs began to disappear, and she returned to her human form. Emma was breathing heavily, tears filling her eyes. "I can't," she whispered, lowering her hands. "I can't become a monster." Lily hugged her, feeling Emma's body shake with sobs. "You are strong, Emma. You made the right choice," she said, trying to comfort her friend. They returned to Simon. He lay on the ground, his life slipping away. Emma held him, feeling his heartbeat grow weaker. "I love you, Simon," she whispered through her tears. "Please, Don't leave me." Simon smiled at her, his eyes full of love and peace. "You are strong, Emma. You will manage. I will always be with you." And with those words, he took his last breath. Emma was left alone in the silent forest, her heart shattered, but she knew she had to live on for his sake. She was determined to find a new place where she could start a new life, far from people and dangers. Chapter 5. Embracing Destiny. Months had passed since Simon's death, protecting Emma. Her life had drastically changed. She decided to leave the city and move to a remote place, far from human hustle and dangers. She found a small countryside cottage in the forest where she could start anew. The cottage was cozy and peaceful. Surrounded by thick trees, it became a true haven for Emma. Here she felt safe and could live quietly, without fear of new attacks. Lily occasionally visited her, bringing news from the outside world and supporting her friend during difficult times. As time passed, Emma began to feel new life growing inside her. Her body changed, and she realized she was expecting a child. This brought joy and hope for the future, which had seemed so dark and hopeless after Simon's death. The baby became a symbol of new life for her, a continuation of their love and strength. The months went by, and the day came when Emma gave birth. It was a difficult and emotional ordeal, but she managed. When the baby was born, Emma felt her heart fill with love and hope. She named the boy Jake, in honor of Simon, who would always live in her memory. Life in the countryside cottage was calm and measured. Emma cared for Jake, who grew and developed at an astonishing rate. He was no ordinary child. His werewolf nature showed in everything. But Emma knew she could handle it and raise him with love and understanding. One day, when Jake had started taking his first steps, Lily came to visit, wanting to see her friend and her son. They sat on the porch of the cottage, watching the little boy play on the grass. Lily looked at Emma and said, "You did it, Emma. You went through so many trials and didn't break. Jake will be proud of you." Emma smiled, her eyes shining with happiness and satisfaction. "Thank you, Lily. I couldn't have done it without your support. You were always there when I needed it." Lily took her hand and said, "We will always be family, Emma, and I will always be there to support you." Emma felt she had finally found her place in this world. The cottage in the forest became a symbol of a new life, full of hope and possibilities. She knew that new challenges awaited them, but now she was ready to face them with her head held high. Life went on, and Emma taught Jake everything she knew. She told him about Simon, about his courage and love. She showed him how to be strong and fair, how to protect those he loved. Jake grew up a curious and brave boy, and Emma saw in him the continuation of their family, their story. The past had left its marks, but Emma knew that the future depended on her. She was ready for new challenges, ready to protect her family and her home. And although the path was difficult, she knew that love and faith would help her overcome any obstacles. The end. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel and don't forget to hit the like button. Thank you for your attention.